Alrighty, folks. Are you ready to rock? Because I am. I am so excited about this morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome in the chat. My name is VooDoo Val, and I am going to be your host this morning again for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. And I'm very excited to be doing this again. Colleen, welcome in. I see Andreas. I hear my voice in the background, which means I need to turn off Mini Val in the browser over here. I see Ted, I see Moana, Jennifer, RB, Robert, Jan Eric with the YouTube jokes. General Kenobi, hello there. It's good to see you, my friend. This is where the fun begins. Chris, good to see you. I see, oh my gosh, all of you folks are here. Holly, welcome in. Bryce, hello. Bryce with the SpongeBob quotes. I don't know if that was intended to be a SpongeBob quote, but I read that as I'm ready in SpongeBob's voice. So, you know. Nourish, welcome in. Jack Watson, good to see you. Angel, Megan, Mercurial, good to see you. Usha, welcome in. Anki, welcome back. Tatiana, Cherry, all of you folks, thank you so much for jumping in here. Hey Becca, good to see you. So I'm going to take you folks through what you will need in order to get involved with me this morning, and I'm also going to show off some cool tips and tricks and things that I've left in the Discord for you, and then we're going to dive into today's challenge. And if we have time, I'm going to demo something that some folks asked questions about yesterday. So first of all, if you head over to the challenge page, this is what you will find. So let me pop over here. So if you go to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, you will find all of the things that you need to get started with us today. As you can see, some of these challenges are unlocked and some are not. Every day that we have a challenge, the challenge of the morning is going to be revealed to you. Today we're using gradient effects, so it says experiment with gradient maps and layer styles to emulate real-life textures and materials. We're going to be making some spooky slime textures today. It's spooky season, so we're gonna put kind of a spooky twist on it. However, if you would like to make textures that are not necessarily spooky, feel free to kind of go your own way and do your own thing. This is just kind of showing you how to use these tools so you can get familiarized with them. You can hit get started here to download the file I have created for you so you can have a starting place. And if you need to come back and watch this video because you need a refresher, or maybe you can't stay the whole stream and you're going to need to come back and watch the full version, you can always come back here and click watch video. You can also join the Discord. The Discord is a super cool place, and we will get some links into the chat for you folks. But this is the Discord. If you come over here to the challenge page, you can come in here and see all of these awesome things that people are posting. And I went through and posted some tips yesterday because I noticed some people were doing what we got here, which they were making their strokes with the mixer brush from yesterday's challenge, and they were getting this, I believe this person called it the worm. Mine looks more like a worm than a smooth line, and I thought that was hilarious. So if you scroll down further in the Discord past all these awesome, super cool challenge entries, you will see Frank came in and was helping out, and then I also posted kind of a side-by-side. You want to make sure you have your spacing down in your brush settings so you can get a nice smooth line. If you have your spacing cranked up, you get the worm, and the worm is not what we want, folks. And I mean, maybe the worm is what you want. If you like the worm, then use the worm. But if you're not looking for the worm and that's what you got, make sure that spacing is cranked down. We got some pretty cool entries throughout the day. And then I also posted some tricks in here for those of you who maybe don't have a super powerful computer and maybe you were getting a little bit of lag. A cool workaround that you can do is you can make your brush really small, and you can do a little squiggle, and then you can convert that layer to a smart object and then size it up. So if you wanted a big stroke, but your system is not too happy about you making a giant mixer brush and painting with a giant mixer brush, you can always just do it tiny and then make it big afterwards, which works. And then I also posted some tips here. This is a video from Kyle T. Webster about smoothing out the mixer brush. If you are getting lag and things like that, he's made a really great video on that, so feel free to check it out. And then I've also posted all of my assets that I made yesterday for your use. You folks can use these for the challenges, and you can use them for personal projects, whatever you want. They are my gift to you. So without further ado, let's jump into today's challenge. I'm going to kind of scroll through all these so we can just preview and see all of the wonderful things that everyone has been making. I'm so proud of all of you. I really am. These are so cool. You guys really went above and beyond and made some really excellent things. But this is your challenge starter file, and it says experiment with gradient maps and distortion filters to create textures that resemble sludge, slime, and oil. Use Liquify to create a swirling of colors and values, then apply a noise texture to give your swirls a gritty feel. Lastly, we're going to apply gradient maps to give our textures a fun twist of color, and I'm very excited. Islam, welcome in. It's good to see you. Hello, Timothy. I think I saw Gareth in there as well. Rin, welcome in. It's good to see you. Okay, so let's dive into what we're going to be doing. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to hide my info. I've put the info in a different group so you folks can just hide it and get all that stuff off the screen if you don't want it. And then here in the elements folder, I have made a texture. So this is kind of the stuff that you can expect to be doing today. And one of the things I want you folks to keep in mind when we jump into the meat of this challenge is this is not only a way to familiarize yourself with some cool tools in Photoshop, but this is also a really nifty way to create something that you can use to make a profit. This is an awesome way where you folks can kind of do this challenge, see if you can come up with some cool textures that you could sell in a texture pack or something like that. I'm trying to put money in your pocket, trying to show you how to use Photoshop and show you how to use Photoshop for a profit, all right? That's the goal, right? We're trying to make a living out here. We're trying to do some cool stuff, so keep that in mind. Because I made this texture myself and I thought, wow, that looks like something I bought for 15 bucks a year and a half ago for a project I was working on, and then I realized I could make a pack of like 10 of these things and throw them on Gumroad or something. So I will probably do that, and if you folks do the challenge today and you like it, maybe you will do that too, and you can start your own texture pack thing. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I did this. And the way I'm going to do it is I am going to create a new layer, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my mouse again today. And yesterday we used our mouses to draw strokes and things. Today's going to be the same, but much easier because we're not going to draw with the mouse. We're just going to click. Okay, it's going to be very easy. Is it possible to learn this power? Yes, General Kenobi, it is. With this power, you will always have the high ground. So I'm going to make my brush big. I'm going to make sure that I am not on the mixer brush anymore. We're going to use the regular brush. I'm going to make sure that I am on the soft round brush. And I'm going to click around with various colors. Well, not colors, various values, okay? And I think actually first what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint bucket a color in here because I want to make sure there's no transparent portions. And then I'm going to grab my brush. And I'm going to grab kind of a dark gray here. And I'm going to click, and what we're going to do is we're just going to click around with different values and kind of mess up the canvas here. We're just going to make sure that there's a bunch of different pieces of value and color in here, and then we're going to use Liquify, like I mentioned earlier. So I'm just going to kind of try, and I'm just clicking with the soft round brush, just clicking, and it's just going to give us a nice combination of different values here, which is going to be useful for us once we start really getting into the meat of our project. Okay, so I've clicked around. I'm trying to make it look like it's kind of blended around. Okay, so we have this. And now we're going to go into Liquify. So we've made this layer. So we're going to come up here to Filter. And we're going to go to Liquify, which is also Control-Shift-X. Okay, so we're going to pull it into Liquify. This is my Liquify panel. And there's a lot of really awesome tools here in the Liquify panel. Okay, if I hover over here, I can read them to you. We have Warp Tool, we have Reconstruct Tool, we have Smooth Tool, there's a Twirl Clockwise, there's a Pucker Tool, a Bloat Tool, Push Left. There's so many different super cool things that you can do in here, but I'm just going to use the very first forward keyboard warp tool, which is also W on your keyboard. And I am just going to kind of drag my brush through here. And I'm gonna make this all swirly. We're gonna make it look like slime or sludge and just kind of muck it up. It also kind of technically looks like satin fabric. If you use your imaginations, it does look a lot like fabric. And I'm gonna just draw all this stuff through here. And don't be sad if it doesn't look perfect when you do it, because you can kind of tap into some of these other tools that we have in here to supplement things. So right now it looks cool, but I feel like it needs a little bit more detail. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use the twirl tool, and we're going to see how that actually works. And it's not bad. So one of the things too that I had to kind of get used to when it came to twirl, I'm gonna Control Z here, is there's a lot of instances where it will warp your canvas so much. Okay, I kind of like that. I kind of like that it added like more of a dark value in here. There's a lot of instances where using some of these tools can sometimes break the border or the transparency in the center of the layer, because it's like pulling it apart a little bit. But don't let that discourage you, because you can come in with other tools. Maybe we will come in with the pucker tool and see what there we go. That's kind of cool. So the pucker tool kind of pulls it in and gets rid of that little bit right there, but it's still different than before. So we can come in with the pucker tool, and we can do a little bit of something here. There we go. Add a little more texture to it and just play around. Just make kind of a weird texture that will start to look like oil or just strange liquid. Maybe I'll grab this tool again, and maybe I will kind of drag this around, kind of push this. Let's drag this over here. Let's see what we can do. And then once I kind of get this to where I want it, let me see if I can pull that over here. Okay. Bring that in like that. That's kind of interesting. And it's one of those things that takes a little bit of time, and I don't want to get so out of time that I run out of minutes to teach you the rest of this. So I'm just gonna leave it like this, but I think it's safe to say that I would spend maybe another 5 minutes on this, kind of making it look a little bit more interesting, so it's not so so rough in the center, but it's really up to you. Maybe some of you folks really like this. Maybe you would keep this. I would work on it a little bit more, but that's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it like that. And I'm just gonna say, okay. So I have this now, and it is, like, if I hide this background, you can see, like, in that bottom corner right there, it did pull the edge of the canvas over, so there's a little transparent bit there, but that's okay. One of the things that I will do is I will make a new layer. I'll grab my paint bucket tool, I'll grab a color, and I'll just throw it back there and merge these two. You can merge by holding Shift to select your layers, and then Control E to merge. If you're trying to select layers, multiple layers that are not directly in order of each other, you'll want to hold Control and select them. For example, I'm selected on layer 2. I can hold Control and select Info up here. But if I had done that with holding Shift and I selected Info, it would select Info, but it would also select everything in between. So that's kind of an easy way to select multiple layers. Now I have this weird, strange oil spill type of graphic. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit it with a noise texture, okay? And we're going to create our own noise texture. And how do we do that? So I'm going to drop in another color here. Actually, I think I like this gray color, so I'm just gonna paint bucket. This is a new layer that I've made with Control Shift in. And I'm gonna come up to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. and I can make my own noise texture. Now, one of the things that you may not see when you first add noise to something is you will see like colors in it, and that is probably because you do not have monochromatic selected. I prefer monochromatic whenever I use this. Not using monochromatic, however, does not ruin your piece. It might not be exactly what you're looking for if you're doing something that is monochromatic and you don't want any sort of colors or anything bleeding in, and it's kind of hard to see, but I prefer just to change it to monochromatic. That is my my preference, and you can decide the amount of noise and things that you want to throw in. It's really up to you. I'm gonna probably leave it at the midway point, and I'm gonna say okay, and now I have a noise texture. Okay, and you probably could have made that a little more interesting. You probably could have taken, let's see if we want to do this real quick. I'm going to Control J on this this strange layer, and I'm going to do it to this as well, just to test out what it would look like if we did it with a yeah, see? So if you wanted to have it done with a layer that actually had a lot of different values on it, you could also do that. That's also interesting. Maybe I'll save this one too. I actually really like that. That's kind of the look we're going for today, so maybe we will keep this. All right. I'm actually going to use this one. So I'm gonna keep my noise texture. It's another thing, if you folks want to experiment with making noise textures, that's another thing that could go into a texture pack. Okay. So now we have our strange color, and we have our noisy texture, which I really like, because it just adds a lot more texture. And honestly, I think that with that small added little bit of texture, it already looks even cooler. It already looks like something you might use in the back of some kind of graphic piece. But we are going to supplement this with a gradient map. So I'm going to close this just so that I can see only my bottom layer. And we are going to come over to our gradient. Actually, no. We are going to come up to image. So there's two ways you can access gradient maps, and one of them is the way that we're going to use today. So the first thing I'm going to do is right click this and convert it to smart object. Just like I was saying yesterday, one of the things I want to make sure I kind of instill in you folks is working non-destructively. So if we add a gradient map to a layer that isn't a smart object, it will change the layer, and there's no way to go back unless you Control Z all the way and undo all the way back to before you applied that gradient map. If you apply a gradient map to a layer that is a smart object, you can always toggle it on and off no matter how much work you have done to that layer. So we're going to set our smart object. We're going to come up to image, adjustments, and gradient map. And this little guy pops up here. So we are going to click this because it's going to open our gradient maps, and you will have a lot of gradient maps in here by default. You will also possibly have some custom ones if you made some custom gradient maps during yesterday's challenge. I have a lot of custom ones that I have made over the years that I really love to use, but you can come in here. The first thing I'll preview is something from one of these that's just already available. So if I put it on, that looks kind of cool. Actually, it's like a spooky cotton candy. And one of the things I can do is I can edit this if I want. So maybe I want to bump this over here and add another color. And maybe we'll make that color much brighter, like that, just to add some more values. And maybe we'll bump this one over here, and maybe we'll click there and change this color to something darker. If you are so inclined, if that's what you decide you'd like to do, you can hit OK, and then you can come in here. This is what I like to do, is I like to sometimes reverse it, because sometimes it makes it look better. I think it actually looks better not in reverse. I think that looks pretty cool, but that's a way that you can do that. I am, however, going to cancel because I don't want to use those colors. I'm going to come back up, go to adjustments and gradient map, and I'm going to open this again because I want some spooky colors. I'm VooDoo Val. We can't get out of here without using spooky colors. So I'm going to come in, and I think I'm going to use this. That's pretty cool. And I am going to reverse it. This is one that I've created before, and I might actually click, you can click on it again and open it up. I might actually bring this over here. You can kind of alter these middle spaces here, just to add a little bit more gradient between the colors, which I think is pretty neat. And then maybe we can bump this. That kind of just makes it look like some kind of strange lava, and I kind of like it. But that's an interesting one, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and say okay on that. Actually, I like this. If you make a gradient that you like, if you make one that you really love, I suggest saving it. So that one that I started with is a gradient combination that I saved called Sour, but I really like the different changes that I made. So I'm gonna call this Sour 2, and make sure you hit new. Make sure you hit that new, because if you don't, then it will not be saved. And I will say okay. I will say, what does it look like in reverse? That's cool, but I like it better like this. I'm gonna say okay. And then I am going to test out our noise textures that we made, and I'm going to test it out by just testing it on some blending modes. So one of the things that I like to do is I've got some blending modes that I really like. Also, welcome in Annika and Fairy. It's really good to see you. Clever Devlin, good to have you in. Welcome in Susan. I like to use like a darken or a multiply. I also like to use a color dodge sometimes, or an overlay and soft light. But sometimes I like to see if I can create some kind of effect that is a little bit different. And to do that, I have to experiment with some of the modes that I've never used before. So what I like to do is just cycle through all of these and see what it gives me, because sometimes I'm surprised, honestly. That is actually really cool. It's not 100% black and white. It's got a soft color and it almost looks like fog. That's kind of interesting, and I know it's not what we're going for, but I'm gonna group these real quick and duplicate so that I have one down here. I'm gonna convert this to a smart object, I think, possibly, if it'll load for me. So then I have that there. I have a texture already, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna cycle through more of these. So we can go to screen, color dodge is a little too bright. Let's see if we get, I do like the overlay. The overlay almost makes it look like liquid gold, to be honest. Hard light is interesting because it's almost like a purpley brass, which is kind of cool. So I'm gonna leave it on hard light. I'm going to duplicate this group with Control J, and I'm going to convert that to Smart Object because I like it, and it's going to load a little bit for me. So I have that as well. And then I am going to continue on down the line here. Let's see if we can find something else that we like. That's cool. That adds like more purple, less of the really fiery orange, and that's really interesting. Let's see if there's anything else that I like. Okay, I liked that pin light. I like that pin light. So I'm going to duplicate it, convert one of them to Smart Object. And then I am going to, I'd like to have one that really gives the vibe of like the original colors. So I'm going to select darker colors, not so bad. I'm going to also select maybe a soft light would be cool. Another thing we can do is we can hide this and we can drag our regular noise texture in here, and we can do that too. Because one of the things, the only downside, if it can be a downside to using the texture that is like a noise texture in the same shape and style as our background image, is it is going to make the darker parts darker and it is going to make the lighter parts lighter, because those are where the values are placed. So if you want kind of an even texture, using a regular noise texture is fine. And what I'm doing here is I was highlighted on my blending modes and cycling through them with the arrow keys, but I don't think that you can do that if you're on a Mac. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it on overlay, and I am actually going to Control L and open levels, and I'm going to edit the levels of this. Yeah, I like that. I like this a lot. I like this very much. Just to make my noise texture a little bit brighter. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and merge that as well, convert that to smart object. So I've got a bunch of textures. I've got 4 very interesting textures, I think. I might alter some of the, like Control U to open hue and saturation, and maybe saturate some of these just a little bit, because I liked that one being like super gold. But we have a bunch of textures that we can use that would be interesting, and many of them look like the one that I supplied to you. If I group all these and hide them, many of them look like this one that I have supplied. So I did a lot more swirling around on this, but it looks pretty cool. And yeah, that is what I have for you. So we've made some spooky, creepy oil, slime, sludge textures today, which we are going to pull up on Friday to use in our main project. If you don't have time to do this project, or for whatever reason, you will have some of my textures supplied to you for that Friday challenge if you can make it. But that is all the time I have for you today. I really don't want to get cut off, so I gotta take off. But thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's challenge, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Much love, folks, and happy designing. I will turn the stream off if I can find my outro page. Ah, there it is. Extra supplied to you for that Friday.